You asked, and now I'm going to answer. It is time for my birthday Q&A. Hello, book friends. I'm Jen, and welcome to my reading life, and welcome to my birthday Q&A Ask Me Anything video. And you sure did. You guys came in with so many questions, and I'm hoping this video won't be too long, but I make no promises. Some of your questions were so just interesting and in depth, and I'm going to try to answer them all to the best of my ability, but we have a lot to get through, so I'm not going to beat around the bush or have a very long intro here. I do have to show you quickly my little fun flashing, if I can get it to go. There it goes. My birthday crown. Isn't that fun? Okay, there we go. I'm not going to wear this for the entire video because it's not super comfortable, but I had to wear it for this little intro. Now, before we get into the questions themselves, I have broken them down into 4 categories. So we have BookTube, YouTube questions, we have crafts and tea and things like that. There are some personal questions about my personal life, and then there are questions about books and reading, of course. I will hopefully remember to put chapters down in the description box below so that you can skip around if you want to the different sections, if there's particular types of questions that you are personally interested in. But I would love for you to watch the whole video. You'll get to learn a little bit more about me. And yes, let's get into it before too much more time goes. I have a very big cuppa with me, and you should grab yours and settle in. We might be here for a little bit, and let's get into all your questions. This set of questions all revolves around YouTube and BookTube. So there's just a few questions, but I thought we would go through them all together. And I'm going to start off with this one that's got a few questions all in one from the same person. It says, how far ahead do you plan your YouTube videos? Does YouTube ask for specific content each month? Do you have some flexibility in planning your videos, or is it a rigid yearly calendar schedule? That's a great question. No, there are no set parameters by YouTube, but there are a few things that if you want your channel to grow, that you have to take into account in terms of how YouTube's algorithm works. One of the biggest things is being consistent in your posting of your videos, whether that's once a month, twice a month, once a week, twice a week, every day. If you're going to have a particular schedule, then YouTube really prefers that you stick to that schedule as best you can. And even to the point of uploading them on the same days at the same time, not quite as essential from what I understand, but being consistent is the biggest part of YouTube growth. And because I really want to grow my channel, that is something that I definitely keep in mind. So I do post every Tuesday and Friday, occasionally on Sundays, which this video is going up on a Sunday. So you're seeing this as an extra video. But for the most part, I've missed a few uploads just due to sickness and other things kind of getting in the way, but pretty much since I started, that has been my schedule. And I really try to be consistent with that. In terms of specific content, there's no specific content. It's really up to you and what you want to post about and what you think your audience wants to hear you chatting about. And so that's what I try to feed into the most, is the things that you guys respond to and really seem to enjoy. I try to bring more of that type of content to my channel as much as I can. And there's plenty of flexibility in planning my videos. I actually have my videos fairly well planned out from now through the end of the year. And I try to stay a month or two ahead of my filming schedule. But then I do also allow for impromptu video ideas that come up, and sometimes I will then shuffle things around or take out a video I was planning and maybe put that back into my idea pile and then do this new video, whether say another booktuber tagged me in a video and I really want to do that, or somebody brought up a suggestion and I thought, oh, that's really great to do right now, whether it's a seasonal video or just topical for the moment, or it's just something I'm really interested in doing. So I allow myself, my own self, flexibility in terms of the videos I put up, but I do also try to stick to a fairly good schedule as well. And I do have obviously some videos I do every month, like my pile of possibility video and then a monthly wrap-up video. So those will always be a part of my planning, and I usually schedule those first because they're the easiest ones to plan. But that is how that works. And yeah, there's no rigid yearly calendar schedule. It's really up to you. And, you know, I know YouTubers change over time, and there may be certain times when maybe I can't do 2 videos every week. Maybe that will be too much, or maybe I'll feel like that's not enough and I want to do more every week. So it's really up to you, up to the YouTuber themselves in terms of what their schedule is. The next question is, did you ever get a camera for your YouTube videos? No, I did not. I still film on my iPhone. I have an iPhone 13, I think. It's an iPhone 13. And yes, that is what I use to film. I have found just by following some YouTubers who give tips about filming and sort of the technical side of YouTube. I've learned some settings for my phone that I think help the quality of my videos, and I think the editing software that I'm currently using also helps. So no, I haven't gotten a new camera, though I did for my birthday just get a fun new toy that I'm gonna have to figure out how to use. It is a vlogging tripod, and it allows the phone or camera to follow you. So while you're vlogging, so you can set the tripod down, and then as you move, it will track you. I'm so excited to try it out. We'll see how it goes. So maybe there'll be a vlog in my future where I test that out. So stay tuned. The next question is, who are some of your favorite booktubers and why? Oh my goodness. We could be here all day long if I listed out all of the booktubers that I enjoy watching. Obviously, I think the first one that comes to mind is a booktuber that we all know and love, and that is Miranda Mills. And I love her videos. I love the tone of them, the quality of them. I read very similarly to Miranda, so I'm always looking to her for book recommendations. She's just seems so lovely. It's so fun also to see her mom on her channel as well. She makes the most beautiful vlogs. Someday I dream of making a vlog that's even remotely as lovely as Miranda's. So that's why I love her, and I think many of you do as well. I will link all of the BookTube channels I mentioned here, and then maybe some more, because I am sure I'm going to forget somebody, but I love so many channels. Next up has to be Kate Howe. I love Kate's channel. Kate's not actively putting out videos right now. Well, I think has some Booktober content that's going to be coming out this month, but she just has a lot going on in her life, her health, her son's health, and just family things. So she's had to set YouTube aside for a while, but she has a ton of backlog videos. You should go back and watch them. She's so lovely. I get so many book recommendations from her, and Kate and I have become friends over the years, and she is just the loveliest person. And if you are at all interested in Victorian literature, she is a fantastic resource. She has read so much and so widely, and I really go to her as someone that I can rely on for Booktober recommendations. Also in that same realm is Katie from Books and Things. She is the other, I think she started Booktober. She did start Booktober. And so she's another great resource for Victorian reads, for classics in general. And I just like the variety of things that Katie reads. We don't always read exactly similarly, but I love listening to her talk about books. She works in the publishing industry, and so she's talked a little bit about that and that side of her life as an editor. She's also a writer herself, and I've read her first book, and I have her second book on my fall TBR to read, and she writes sort of gothic novels, and I love that. So yes, so Katie from Books and Things is another. And then another booktuber I love who reads quite differently from me, but is just so delightful to watch, is Johanna from Me, My Dog, and Books. And Joanna lives in Scotland, and she reads a lot of much darker books than I read, thrillers. She loves horror. Stephen King, I think, is her favorite author, but she does a weekend reading vlog every single week, and they are the most delightful things. She does a lot of thrifting and secondhand book shopping, and she has the cutest pups in the world. They're adorable, and she is just such a delight. I could listen to her talk about books all day long. And then we do crossover in some areas. She does like some kind of cozier mysteries. She likes middle grade books as well, and so we do align there sometimes. But yes, if you've never watched Johanna, even if she doesn't read the kind of books you like, her personality is it's just fantastic. She's so lovely. And then I, not too long ago, actually discovered from some of you, Paula from Relatively Refined. She has a YouTube channel that she does with her sister. And Paula does a lot of the book videos that they do on their channel, but they also do a lot of like seasonal decorating and things about gardening and just kind of general cozy life stuff, and it is a delight. And Paula and I are definitely kindred book spirits. We read very similarly. We've read so many of the same things, and I just love listening to her chat about books. So every time I see a new video, I get excited. Oh my goodness. I could go on and on and on. I think I will stop there, but I'm going to list some more BookTube channels down in my description box that I absolutely love and recommend, and have some of the loveliest people just talking about books. And I love to hear people who love books talk about books. There's so many good channels out there, you guys. The next question is, and this was a little bit of a personal question for this individual, but I thought that I would put it in here because I think maybe it might apply to others as well. It says, why is it I struggle watching YouTube videos and sticking with Goodreads? I never feel a part of anything. Oh, I often feel the same way. I always tell my husband I am the last to know anything about anything. I'm not good at keeping up with insert whatever topic here. So I can completely relate to that. I think the best thing you can do if you want to feel a part of a community like BookTube is to engage. The more you engage with creators, the better I think you'll feel. And I would say engage with smaller creators, because we have the time and space to respond to comments, to interact with people. If you find a creator that you really love, supporting them, if they have a membership, a Patreon, a book club, whatever that might be, join something. And I know sometimes it's scary to put yourself out there. I am very bad about that myself. But I promise you that there are lovely, lovely people out there. And if you feel a connection to somebody whose channel you watch, I think if you start connecting with them, maybe you'll start to feel a little bit more involved. I think I'd love to hear what other people have to say about that, actually. So tell me, what do you guys do to feel connected and involved and a part of this community? And then the last question regarding BookTube and YouTube is, what does your son think of your growing YouTube channel? Okay, I asked him this question, and at first he said he was going to come on my channel and talk about it himself, but as you can see, he's not here. He changed his mind. He's a little bit shy, a little bit reticent. He doesn't like to have the spotlight on him. So I think he got a little nervous when it came to like actually sitting down and filming with me. And then I said, well, what do you want me to say? And he said, oh, I don't know. I said, what do you think about my channel? I don't know. And I think I don't even think it really impacts him. It's something that I do, and we talk about it certainly as a family. I talk to my husband about my channel, and we'll sit at dinner and I'll talk about what I'm filming or what I've been working on. So I think he kind of looks at it like it's my job, and you know how kids are, it's not what he's interested in. I mean, he does like to read, but he's not interested in my channel. Other than he likes to hear funny stories if the cats were in my videos. That's what he's most interested in, is if the cats are in my videos. So you can see where his priorities are. And that is it for all of the BookTube and YouTube questions. Now we're going to get into the crafts and tea questions. And again, I just have a few of these, so try to get through these quickly. I'm trying not to be super long-winded because we're going to be here all day. The first question is, what crafts do you do and what is your favorite kind of tea? So both craft and tea question all in one. And my main craft that I do is cross stitch, and I counted cross stitch, where you have a pattern and you use a blank cloth, not a pre-printed cloth, and you basically make little X stitches. That's the cross stitch. And you create a picture basically out of nothing. And I have learned to knit, and I used to be a pretty big, very basic knitter. Mostly I've made scarves. I haven't got into anything more complicated than that, really. And I did that for quite a while. And then when my son was born, I just kind of, lost my momentum on it, and I really haven't gone back to it. But I really want to learn to crochet. That is my next goal for a craft that I would really love to learn. And I used to do things like scrapbooking, and occasionally I'll get ideas to do a particular type of craft. I did the, you can kind of see it back here. Oops, where is it? My little book shelf insert that I did. And then I like to do puzzles. That's not really a craft, right? It's more of just a hobby. So I like to do puzzles, and yes, so I think that's really it. For crafting anyway. And then in terms of the tea that I like, I'm very, very basic. I like very, very basic tea. My main tea that I drink is Yorkshire Gold. And I drink a cup of this every morning. And that is the first cup of tea I have during the day. And then the rest of my tea, because caffeine really gets to me if I have too much. So then I drink the Yorkshire decaf the rest of the day. And yes, I have these giant boxes because I go through so much tea. I need to have giant boxes on hand. The next question is, I love your white mug with the black lettering. Do tell us the brand name and where you purchased it. That is one of my Emma Bridgewater mugs, and I have a few. I love Emma Bridgewater's pottery, and especially this is the black toast pottery. I would have gotten my mug out, but I just used it last night, so it's in the dishwasher. And Emma Bridgewater is a UK-based pottery company, and you can get it here in the US. You can order through Emma Bridgewater directly, but sometimes it's challenging to get them here in a timely manner. So I usually purchase them either from Joanne Hudson, and I'll have her website linked below. There's also, I think it's called British Bees Knees Imports, something like that. I will also link that down below. You can get lots of British pottery through both of those websites, and that is usually where I shop from, just because it's easier to get them here in the US. But yes, love Emma Bridgewater so very much. Next question is, when you cross stitch, are you stitching on Aida cloth or linen? If linen, do you have any helpful suggestions? I don't. So to answer the first question, I'm not stitching on linen. When you do cross stitch on linen, I don't even know how you do it. When the person mentioned Ada cloth, that's what this is. So I don't know if you can see, but there is like, let me put it by the camera. You can see how there's little, like there's little holes and there's little like boxes, and you're basically making your X's. Here, let me show you where I've actually done something around those little boxes. So this is Ada material, and it comes in different counts. So depending on the size of the material and where the, how big the stitches are of the material itself, determines like how big your piece will be or how small. So I think it goes like 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 24, kind of like that. As for linen, it does not have those little like built-in boxes. I don't know how you stitch on linen without your stitches being all kinds of crazy sizes. So I apologize that I am not going to be a helpful source for how to cross stitch on linen. I think that's something I need to look into, because I know lots of people use linen fabric for cross stitching, but I've never done it. So my mom might have done it. I'll have to ask her if she knows how you do that. Mom, if you're watching this, can you tell us in the comments how you stitch on linen? Because I don't know. And then the last question for this section is, I like your crafts besides book and cup collections. Do you work, and do you have any other hobbies? This is my job, my part-time job right now. I worked for most of my life. I even worked part-time after my son was born, up until, and even through the pandemic a little bit. Yes, so I have worked, but I don't hold a job outside of my home. Right now, YouTube is my job. And I do make some money from it, not a ton, but enough to keep me in books. And then in terms of other hobbies, I think I talked about those a little bit at the beginning. Outside of obviously reading, I like to cross stitch, and I like to do puzzles. I like to do crossword puzzles as well. I do like to dance. I've always danced growing up, and I also did theater from a fairly young age, up until my son was born. I was doing theater. I was actually choreographing a show while I was pregnant. Well, I choreographed it. I was just sort of assisting. They were taking the show on the road, and I was just helping out with that while I was pregnant. So that was kind of the last things that I did. But being a mom has taken over from doing theater or dance, other than having taken Zumba classes. And I do like to find dance classes on YouTube, or, dance workouts. And so I will do those. And then sometimes I will just put music on and dance around my kitchen. That's really fun for me. So I do like to dance. But yes, I think those are my hobbies. I like to watch movies. I like to play with my cats. I like to hang out with my family and my friends. And I like to shop for books. I like to shop for books too. That's a hobby. Book shopping is its own separate hobby from reading. So I hope that answers all of those questions. This next set of questions are just kind of general personal questions, personal life questions, questions that didn't really fit into any other category. So let us get through them, because I have quite a few of these. The first one is, I would love to know the brands and names of the nail polishes that you use. And I almost always have my nails painted. It's just kind of something I started doing, I don't know, maybe 5 or 6 years ago, just kind of making it part of my weekly routine, like my own little self-care. I sit down and do my nails. I watched a bunch of videos and things about how to do your own nails and how to make the polish last as long as you could. And I used to get manicures and things like that, but now I just do it myself, because I like to change my polish up a lot. And so, and I don't want to have any kind of false nails or anything, or gel or anything like that. My nails are really sensitive and they're very weak. So I don't want to damage them any more than they're already late. But I do have quite the nail polish collection. So I have this little caddy that I have that's pretty much almost completely full, as you can see. And I really only have 3 brands of nail polish that I mostly use. So the first one is Essie. I use Essie a lot. And I just buy them at the drugstore, Target, wherever. And then I have a few left, but not very many, of OPI. I think you can get these at like Ulta and places like that. And then let me flip it over. My main brand that I have right now is the Olive and June brand. Sorry, these are very shiny and glary. And you can buy Olive and June online at the Olive and June website. I'll link it below. You can also get these at Target. So that is the majority of my nail polish. And yes, and I have a little kit that I bought from Olive and June. You can do, I don't know if they still have it, but they used to have like a subscription that you could have with them. And so it basically just like got you discounts on things. It wasn't like they sent you out stuff automatically or anything like that. But I bought their little like manicure kit, which came with like a buffer and a cuticle tool to push your cuticles back, and you know, a top coat and all of that. And so I kind of use that as my little, I have it just in a little box, and that's how I do my nails. And then a quite popular question was, what are some of the lipsticks that you wear in your videos? You wear some of the prettiest bright pink rosy shades and they always look fabulous on you. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. I actually had my colors done a few years ago, and so I learned that really bright colors look really good on me, and so I bought a few lipsticks as a result of that. And I really kind of just rotate through a few. And then I have other lipsticks and lip glosses as well that I will sometimes also swap in, but I think the majority of what you see when I film is one of these 4 lipsticks. So the first 2 are from Clinique, and they are part of the Clinique Pop line. This is the color I have on today. And this is, oh my gosh, can I see this? This is Disco Pop. So it is a really, really bright pink. And I have this, I actually have a lip liner all underneath it, which is also Clinique, and this is their Intense Jam, which is also, it's just kind of like a dark pink color, and I use that quite frequently. Otherwise, I have a MAC, this lip pencil is so old. It's in the color Soar, but it's just kind of like a neutral, kind of a pinkier neutral. So I use that under a lot to kind of tone down if the color is really, really bright. And then my other pink Clinique is a little bit lighter of a pink. And this one is, what is this one? This is Sweet Pop. So that's Sweet Pop. So if you see me in a lighter pink, that's these 2. And I will link all of these in the description box below if I can. And then when you see me wearing red lipstick, I am absolutely wearing this Supergoop red, which is Obsessed is the name of this. And I love this red, and it's really creamy. And it's just a great, like really true blue red. And then lastly, when I'm wearing something that's a little bit more muted, and I've been wearing this lipstick for years and years and years. It's a really good, like every day. I will often wear this if I want to wear a lipstick, which I don't often do during the day, but just like out and about, then I'll wear this, and that is the MAC. This is Syrup. And if I want to brighten it up, then I wear it with this kind of darker lip liner under it. And if I want it to be a little more muted, then I wear the neutral. Yeah, so those are my lipsticks. Next question is, do you have siblings and do they enjoy reading as much as you do? Do your husband and son also enjoy reading as much as you do? I have one brother. He's 6 years younger than I am, and he is not a reader. He's very athletic and has always played sports and been very outdoorsy, and he's not a reader. He really struggled in school, so reading just never came naturally to him. So I got the reading genes in the family from my mom. And then in terms of my husband and my son, yes, they are both readers. My husband doesn't read as much as he used to. I think just, he works really hard and he's often too tired to read in the evening, and he doesn't have a lot of time during the day to read. But my son is a very big reader, for which I am very, very glad. And he reads every night before bed. He's a very fast reader like his mom. And so yes, they are definitely both readers. The next question is, as an avid reader, do you have a hard time scheduling exercise, even just walking? No, not really. I mean, I'm an inconsistent exerciser. Outside of when I was doing Zumba regularly, that was really the most regular physical activity I've ever done in my entire life. And outside of that, I try to do something like 4 to 5 days a week. I either take a walk or I do an exercise video at home, or like I said, I just dance around my kitchen if that's all I have time for. So I try to squeeze it in where I can. I have found one of my biggest tricks to getting myself out the door and walking is having a really good audiobook on the go. When I have a really good audiobook or have a podcast I'm excited about listening to, that gets me in my shoes and out the door and walking for longer than if I don't have something that I'm as excited about. So reading actually does motivate me to walk. So I am actually going to walk this afternoon while my son takes piano, and he has a piano lesson in our neighborhood, and we have a lovely green space in the middle of our neighborhood. And so while he's having his piano lesson, I'm going to walk and listen to my Booktuber book you all picked for me to read, North and South, and I am very excited about it. So that's how I get my exercise in. But exercising is hard, and I will say that I'm the first person to be like, oh, it's kind of cold outside, or ooh, it's too hot out. No, I can't today. I'm always making excuses. My best friend and I are always trying to motivate each other, but I don't know that we're very good for each other because neither of us is super motivated. But, having an accountability buddy, it can help or not. Next question is, and these two questions were from the same person, which is why they're together, even though the questions don't really go together. The first question is, have you always lived in California, and do you speak any foreign languages? Yes, I've always lived in California. I was born here and raised here, and other than when I went to college in Oregon, I have always lived in California. I've never lived anywhere else. I love it here. My family is here. It's a great place to live, and I will probably always live here. I can't say that. I could see my husband and I maybe moving somewhere else. I'm just not sure where. No, we don't 100% agree. So that's why we stay here in California, because we can both agree we love it here. And then in terms of, do I speak any foreign languages? Not fluently. No, I don't speak anything fluently. I took 5 years of French in high school and college, and I speak un peu. Très peu. So very, very little. And yes, and then I also know a little bit of American Sign Language. The town that I grew up in actually had a school for the deaf. And so I was able to take sign language classes in junior high school. And so I do still remember, and I can actually sign "Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star. How I wonder what you are." I can do the whole song. Useless things that are in my brain, but just kind of fun. So no, I don't really speak any foreign language. Next question is, what do you see yourself doing 5 years from now? I'll be 57 5 years from now. Well, I hope I'm still doing this. I hope you guys all still want to watch me, and I hope I'm still excited to make videos for all of you, and that I can still come up with content ideas 5 years from now. That would be fabulous. Gosh, my son will be in high school then, and I'm sure I will just be doing pretty much the same things I'm doing now in terms of, just living my life. And hopefully we can do some traveling and see some different parts of our country and the world, and have experiences with him and as a family. And hopefully my husband and I can maybe do some trips, just the two of us. That would be lovely, especially as my son gets older. I think that will get easier. And yes, so I don't know. Hopefully just much of the same. I hope that we are all healthy and happy, and what more could you ask for? And then the next question is, actually the next few questions are all kind of related, even though some of them came from different people. But the first question is, what was your major in college? And I was an English major. Surprise, surprise. Yes, I majored in English in college. Actually, I started out as a theater major my freshman year and then decided that was not going to be for me. It was not something I wanted to do as a career, even though I enjoyed doing it for fun. And so then I switched to English my sophomore year, but I graduated with an English major. And then the next set of questions are all from the same person. So I'll read you all of her questions and then I will go through them. I'd like to know more about your time as an English major as I live vicariously through y'all. Are there any standout courses that you remember? Any classes that you wanted to take but couldn't get into because they filled up too quickly? Any courses you wish were available? Any areas of literature that you would have liked to study more? Whether you wish they were offered while you were a student or topics, genres that you have discovered as an adult? Any standout books that you read in college because of good or terrible reading experiences? Oh my goodness, that's a lot. So in terms of standout courses that I remember, absolutely my Gothic novel class was probably one of my very, very favorite classes that I took in college. It was so good. The head of our English department at the University of Oregon taught a Chaucer class, and we had to take, I believe we had to take Chaucer, or we had to take something from the sort of like that time period, that sort of middle English, old English time period. And his class was just fantastic. I learned so much. I really appreciated Chaucer. The Canterbury Tales was just such an experience to read and to be guided through it with someone who was so knowledgeable, and he can speak Old English. And so he read it to us, in Old English. And yeah, it was fantastic. Those classes were great. I also took actually a summer class that was like women in literature and film. And that class was wonderful. I really loved that class. The professor was fantastic, and it was just fun to be focused on women's writing and women in film as well. Great class. Any classes that you wanted to take but couldn't get into because they filled up too quickly, etc. I mean, not that I can remember specifically. So my college career sort of went on a meandering course. I started out at one college in Southern California, and then I was very unhappy there. And that was when I changed my major and I came home and I went to junior college for a couple of years, and then I transferred to Oregon. And when I was at junior college, I took a lot of classes, and I had so many units as a result of that when I got to Oregon, I was always one of the very first people who got to register, because they let you register based on the number of units you had. So that way seniors would get priorities over juniors, over sophomores, over freshmen, right? So because the closer you are to graduating, the more they want you to be able to get the classes you want. And because I had so many units, I always got to register like when the seniors were registering, even though I started there as a junior. So I didn't really have any issues getting the classes I wanted. And then any courses that I wish were available, any areas of literature you would have liked to have studied more. Yes, for sure. I wish there had been a course that included Jane Austen and others like her, like specifically women's literature of this sort of, maybe 17 to 1800s, somewhere in there. I feel like that was missing as a course option when I was an English major, and I would have loved that. And, now that I have gotten into literature from the interwar periods, I feel like maybe early 20th century women's literature would also be a really interesting topic to study. So those two for sure. And then any standout books that you read in college because of good or terrible reading experiences. I read so much. Like I said, my Gothic novel course was fantastic. So reading things like Frankenstein, Dracula, we read The House of Seven Gables by Nathaniel Hawthorne. We even came up, and the last book we studied was Interview with a Vampire by Anne Rice, and we studied it as a Gothic novel, which was just really fascinating. And so it was fun to sort of watch the evolution of the Gothic novel from, reading it from the time when things like Dracula and Frankenstein were being written up to Interview with the Vampire. So that was a fantastic class. What else did I read? I had read it before college, but I read Alice in Wonderland during my Victorian literature class, and just studying it with a professor was really, really fascinating. I really, really loved that. Studying Shakespeare in college was so great. If you're an English major, take Shakespeare, because I just think it's important. Because so much of his writing is alluded to in other classic works of literature that you will study. So that's really important. And Chaucer too. And yes, so we had to take an overview course. It was a new course that they were offering right when I first started. And it was called Introduction to the English Major. And it was a year-long course. And we had a lecture course. And then we had breakout groups that we were with, like a TA. And so the professors ran the lecture course, and then we had these breakout sessions of 20 to 30 people where we wrote and analyzed and talked about the things we were discussing in the class. And we read so much. We read through the Norton Anthologies of English Literature. There's 2 giant volumes, and we read a lot out of both of them. So yes, so those are some things that stand out. And then also related to my English major was, did you ever use my English major in a job? The thing about being an English major is that it makes you really good at being a critical thinker, because that is just all that you do, is you look critically at literature, and then you have to put those thoughts into words. And I think most jobs require you to think critically about the work you're doing. So no, I didn't specifically use my English major in my jobs, but I used it in my jobs. And I didn't have any exciting jobs. I worked some office jobs. I worked for a few different employment agencies. I worked for a printing company, and then I worked for a property management company for quite a few years, up until after my son was born. I worked for them part-time, and then I ended up leaving there. Nothing exciting in my actual career related to being an English major, but I can write a darn good letter, let me tell you. And then the last few questions all came from the same person, and that is, what is your favorite part of the place you live? What is your favorite Starbucks drink? And what industry is your husband in? My favorite part of the place that I live is just the variety of things that we have to do here. I love that we're not that far from the ocean. We're not that far from the mountains. We're not that far from a big city. And I love that my family is all here. And I love the familiarity of being near where I grew up. And yeah, I love it here. I love so much about it. So, but don't come here. There's enough people here. Just stay where you are. What is my favorite Starbucks drink? You guys, I haven't had a Starbucks drink, I think, since before the pandemic. But my go-to Starbucks drink before the pandemic was just a basic latte with non-fat milk. I'm very basic when it comes to that. I do also like the Starbucks chai latte. And actually what I do really like in the summertime is their black tea lemonade mix. I like it unsweetened. And so I'm a very basic Starbucks girl, but like I said, I haven't been to Starbucks in ages. And then what industry is my husband in? My husband works in security and compliance. He works for a large retail company, and he basically makes sure that they are complying with all of the security standards for their industry, so that credit card information for consumers is kept safe, and that all of their systems are safe, and that none of their information is getting out there. So he sort of does the sort of backside of the compliance side of that. So that is what he does. And I think that's all the questions for this section. All of these questions are just general books and reading questions, and there are quite a few of them, so let's get right to it. I would really love to know if you have a special routine for your eye care. How do you help your eyes? Do you use an eye pillow to help them rest, or specific lighting, or do you do any eye exercises to keep them strong? I don't really have any kind of special routine. I do use eye drops. I had LASIK eye surgery, I think it's been almost 10 years now. And so I do have some dry eyes. So I use an allergy eye drop in the morning, and then I use just preservative-free eye drops, the little vials that you can buy throughout the day when I feel like my eyes are dry, and then I use them at night before bed. And then I do, of course, try to make sure that I have good lighting, and I use my reading glasses now when I'm reading, because I do need glasses for reading. And then I think the best thing you can do for your eyes is try not to spend too much time on your screen. There is a 20-20-20 rule where you look at your screen for 20 minutes, then you take a 20-second break and you look 20 feet distance. So I do try to do that. We make my son do that as well when he's having computer time. But other than that, I don't really have any kind of special routines for my eyes. I have to hope for the best. I have good eye health. I always get my eyes examined every year, and I always have since I was first needed glasses. And so, yes, I think that's important for your overall general eye health, is to have those eyes looked at every year. If you were ever to write a book, what would the story be about and where would it take place? I don't think I will ever write a book. I just don't think I have it in me, but I do have two different ideas for possible books. And the first one is that I think it would be fun to write a mystery set in the theater, just because that's a world that I know and am familiar with, and I love mysteries set in the theatrical world myself. So I think it would be really fun to write one, but I don't have any specific idea for what the mystery itself would be. And then the other type of book I think it would be fun to write would be a coming of age novel. And I would love to set it in England. And I feel like that'd be a good excuse to go spend a lot of time in England, because I need to, research my novel. So yes, so those would be my two potential novel ideas, but I don't ever going to write a novel. And then the next question is, what are your current reading habits and favorite genre? In terms of reading habits, I just squeeze reading in whenever I can. I read while I eat breakfast and lunch when I'm by myself. I read at night before I go to bed. I listen to audiobooks whenever I can. So when I'm in my car, I listen to them when I take my walks. I listen while I'm doing chores around the house, like doing dishes or folding laundry, things that don't take a lot of concentration, and I can concentrate on the book instead. So so I just fit in reading as much as I can. I read on the weekends quite a bit whenever we don't have things going on. I love to sit here in my reading room, my chaise lounge, and it's just lovely. Have a cat curled up with me and a cup of tea. What could be better than that? And then what my favorite genre is? Well, I love women's fiction from England or the UK. I love mysteries, also from the UK. I love middle grade books. I love classics. So those are probably my top favorite genres that I read the most. Do you read new books sprinkled into your reading, and how did you discover D.E. Stevenson? Yes, I absolutely read new books. I think when you see my reading wrap-ups, you'll see that it's a mix of older books and newer books. I don't read as many new releases as I used to, just because I have discovered so many wonderful older books and authors that I want to read. And so I'm really focused on that right now. And I like a book that has staying power. So if it was something people wanted to read in the 1930s and I still want to read it today, that seems like a good book to me. So, and then how did I discover D.E. Stevenson? I'm not 100% sure. I will have to say it was either through Miranda Mills or I read about her on Instagram. Somebody must have posted. So maybe those two things kind of happened around each other, and maybe I just started hearing D.E. Stevenson's name and then finally picked up Miss Bunkle's book and haven't looked back. What do you consider a middle grade book? I have a granddaughter in 5th grade. Are the middle grade books you recommend meant for her age, which is 10, and grade level? Yes, they are. Middle grade books generally mean books written for kids ages 9 to 12. And, you know, that can vary depending on the child, but absolutely, those are books that your granddaughter should and could be reading. Do you prefer hardback, paperback, ebook, or audiobook? Do you read more than one book at a time? Any genre you would never read? Okay, in terms of hardback, paperback, ebook, audiobook, here's the order of preference for me. Paperback, audiobook, nope, paperback, hardback, audiobook, ebook. That's my order of preference of reading. So paperback number 1, particularly I really like, this is called a trade sized paperback. So this kind of bigger paperback as opposed to a mass market paperback. So this one for sure over this one. And this one in a hardback probably over this one as well. But just because it's getting harder on my eyes to read these mass markets, though, these are nice to like tuck in your purse if you're on the go. And then, do I read more than one book at a time? Yes, I absolutely do, though I try to make sure that all the books I'm reading at one time are very different from one another. So whether that's, you know, general fiction, and then I have a mystery going and a nonfiction, so that I can keep them all straight. Any genre you would never read? I never like to say never, but there are definitely some genres that I'm not drawn to and don't really read. For example, young adult. I don't in general like young adult books, but there's always exceptions to the rules, and there are definitely some young adult novels that I've read and really enjoyed in recent past. I'm not as big a fan of modern young adult novels, but again, never say never. What books are you reading for Victober? Are you going to be reading anything for Christmas? What are you doing for your birthday? I shared my Victober TBR in my October Pile of Possibilities video. I will link that here for you so you can check out what books I'm considering reading for Victober. I've already started 2. I am reading North and South, which is the book you all picked for me to read. So I'm listening to that on audio. And then I am also I'm also reading The Semi-Attached Couple by Emily Eden for the Cozy Reader Book Club. I'm very much enjoying both of them. So those are my 2 Victober reads so far. Am I going to be reading anything for Christmas? Absolutely. Yes, I love to read holiday books at the holiday time, and I'll be sharing what's on my TBR coming up soon. And spoiler alert for everyone who's watching, I am going to be doing Vlogmas again this year. So you're going to get some extra videos from me in December. So if you love the holidays and holiday reading and holiday book related things, then come back here pretty much every weekday in December, and I will be having extra videos for you all. And then what are you doing for your birthday? Well, my birthday actually was 2 days ago at the time I'm filming this. And so on my birthday, I had just a very relaxing day. I just kind of took it easy and read and watched some TV, which I don't normally do during the day, and then went out to dinner with my family and my mom, opened some gifts, and yes, that was basically it. And then this weekend, my husband is getting me a cake and we're going to go out to dinner again. And then I think if the weather is nice, we might go, there's a little miniature golf place in the town next to ours. And so we might go mini golfing on Sunday afternoon. But yeah, nothing super extravagant or special, but you know, just kind of enjoying my birthday for what it was. What are some of your favorite books you have read to your son, both picture and chapter books? Oh my goodness. I really should have pulled some books out. So I'm trying to think of the books that we really loved to read as a family. The first thing that comes to mind are the Elephant and Piggy books by Mo Willems, and those books are fantastic. If you have young children, toddler aged, to like the kindergarten age. Those books, they're so fun. They're so funny. And my son just absolutely loved them. And then let's see. We loved the Little Blue Truck books and the Goodnight Goodnight Construction Site books. Duck and Goose were big picture book fans in our family. We read all of the Duck and Goose books many, many, many times. Oh my goodness, there are so many amazing picture books and books in general. And I am completely blanking on some of the things that we read as a family, or that my husband and I read to him when he was little. Oh my goodness. I'm gonna have to think about that some more. And then as he got a little bit older, we did do some fun reads. It was fun to read. We read the first Harry Potter book we read as a family, and then he just kind of took off. He read the first 4 books, and then I think he kind of fizzled out a little bit because they get so much longer at that point. But he did enjoy the first few, and it was fun to read Treasure Island as a family. That was a great read aloud. I think reading Charlotte's Web to him was a standout read aloud for me, and the Ralph S. Mouse books by Beverly Cleary. Those were really fun. And yes, so that's just off the top of my head. I should have thought about that question a little bit more, especially the picture books, because that's taking me back a few years. Then, what is a novel you expected to love but didn't? And what is a novel you didn't expect to love but did? Oh my gosh, you guys. You're really making me think for these questions. Well, just recently I reread The Great Gatsby and wasn't expecting to love it as much as I did. I really, really enjoyed it. And that was a huge surprise. So that is one for sure. A book I expected to love but didn't. Okay, well, this is probably going to be a fairly controversial statement. But I was really disappointed and underwhelmed, especially the more I think about it, by The Nightingale by Kristen Hanna. I know people love this book. People love it. And I understand why. But here's my thing. In this book, every terrible thing that could possibly have happened to a person in World War II happened to these 2 sisters. It felt like so much atrocity on top of atrocity on top of atrocity, and I felt manipulated by that, and I don't like that when I'm reading a book. I read one more Kristen Hanna after that, The Four Winds, and I enjoyed it, but I just don't think she's for me. I just think her books have manipulation is the only thing I can use. Like they feel emotionally manipulative to me, and I don't like that. I think there can be plenty of drama and tension in a book without pulling every terrible thing that's happened in the world and throwing it all into your book and putting that out there. So that's just not the types of books I like to read. Do you consider yourself to be a fast reader? Yes, I definitely consider myself to be quite a fast reader. And actually, funny story, my mom signed me up for a speed reading / study skills class in high school, mostly to help me with the study skills, not the speed reading. But actually, the majority of the class was about speed reading, not about study skills. So it didn't really help me in the end that much. And so what happened was, and I forget, I don't know, it was like a 6-week evening course or something. I can't even remember what it was through, but they tested our reading speed. So they gave us a book to read and they said, read as much of this as you can. They gave us, I don't know, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, something like that, to just read as far as you can. And then you had to answer a bunch of comprehension questions, as many of them as you could, up until where you left off reading the book. It was a very slim book, probably maybe 150 pages. I think I read it almost in its entirety in the time we were given. and I answered almost all the comprehension questions. And so I had a really high reading speed score and comprehension score. And I think I only improved it by like 3 points by the end of the class because I was already so fast. I think the teacher was like, what are you doing here? So yes, I'm definitely a fast reader. Long answer to a short question. This is a fun question. If you were to take a 10-day solo bookish vacation, visiting bookshops and having afternoon tea, where would you go? Do you have any special bookshops, libraries you have always wanted to visit? Would you want to go solo or with another bookish friend? By the way, not your husband, because that's a different type of trip. In spring or autumn, if it's too hard to choose one place, it's acceptable to choose 2 destinations. Well, only 10 days? Because my first thought is that I want to go to England and see all of the literary sites. I want to go to all the Jane Austen sites. I want to go to Beatrix Potter's house. I want to, just go immerse myself in all of the English literariness that I love so very much. But 10 days isn't very long. So if I only have 10 days, then I think I would want to go to the East Coast of the United States and to New England and go check out all of the literary sites there. Actually, my Gilded Age Buddy Read group, we've been talking about maybe doing a trip at some point to go see Mount Vernon, which is Edith Wharton's home, and then do Orchard House and all of the other, literary spots on the East Coast. There is a beautiful bookstore in Boston, which I'm forgetting the name of at the moment, but I will put it here for you, which I would love to go and visit. And then I also learned you can have high tea at the Boston Library. And that sounds amazing. And I definitely want to do that too. So if I only had 10 days solo, I would definitely want to do that. And then again, I would love to go with some bookish friends. That would be ideal for sure. So if you're a book lover, let's meet up in New England and go on a little bookish literary tour. And I'd also like to go with my mom, especially to England. I think doing a literary England tour with my mom would be amazing. Amazing. And then what bookish things are on your wish list for Christmas? I don't really have anything like necessarily book related, bookish things that I have on my wish list for Christmas that I can think of. Other than that, I always like sort of bookish type puzzles and things like that. But I'm sure I will be. I take that back. I would like a holiday bookish sweatshirt. Something cozy and bookish. Other than that, I would just love books for Christmas. More and more books. Not that I have any place to put them. And then next question is, do you get sleepy when you read? Goodness, yes. I've taken many a cat nap while reading, like holding the book. Have you ever had the book like fall on your face while you're reading? So many times that has happened to me. So many times, especially at night. A lot of times my husband will have to nudge me and be like, honey, dear sleep, your eyes are closed. And I'm still sitting there holding my book. So yes, I definitely get sleepy when I read, and that's okay. Sometimes, especially if it's in the afternoon, like on a weekend, then I just take a little cat nap and then either I go back to reading or I get up and do something else. And yeah, that's okay, right? With a son still in school, how do you read so many books? Well, I think I sort of answered this in, kind of what my reading habits are right now. I definitely squeeze in reading where I can. So like I said, while I eat breakfast and lunch or take a few minutes in the afternoon, I listen to audiobooks. And I always read before bed. And then this is also related to sort of my reading habits and how many hours a day do you find time to read? And I mean, I don't even know that I read multiple hours a day. It's just that I squeeze in minutes here and there where I can. So if I read, 10 10 to 20 minutes at breakfast, 10 to 20 minutes at lunch, 15 minutes in the afternoon. Maybe I read for half an hour after dinner and then another half an hour before bed. Plus I've listened to my audiobook for some number of minutes while I'm, out and about in my car or doing housework or what have you. It all just adds up, but I don't think it's hours each day. Maybe on some random days it'll be more than 1 hour, but I would say probably average about an hour, maybe an hour and a half a day. I don't know. I should time myself. Maybe I will do that one day. Let me know if you'd like to see if I time myself how much I read on average. I could do it like over the course of a week. Okay, we're getting down to the end. I've only got 4 or 5 more questions. The next question is, what sparked your interest in love of Jane Austen? Well, definitely my first time reading Pride and Prejudice, which I shared that experience in my Bookish Memories video. I'll link that here for you if you want to check it out. But I wrote a paper about it in high school. Had a bad experience with the teacher of that class, but it did start my love of Jane Austen. And then I think I really fell in love with her when the 1995-6 Pride and Prejudice came out with Colin Firth and Jennifer Ely. Just swoon. That really started my love affair with Jane Austen. And I actually think I watched a lot of the adaptations before I read the novels. The Sense and Sensibility movie came out, and then the Gwyneth Paltrow movie of Emma came out. So there was quite a bit of Jane Austen kind of in a short period of time when I was just like in my early 20s, and so it was a really good time to get interested and invested in Austen. So that's how the love affair began. Have you ever read a book that made you so angry with the author you wanted to throw it across the room? Yes, for sure. I'm trying to think off the top of my head what one of those would be, and I've definitely DNF'd books because whatever was happening in them just made me so angry. I'm blanking on titles at the moment. I'll have to think on that one. Is there a book you love so much that now it's kind of scary to reread it because it may not live up to the first read? Well, actually, this is funny because I am going to be doing a video coming up fairly soon about my rereading journey, because it has been a journey for me. I didn't used to be a rereader. I'd only reread a couple of books, and then I sort of gave myself a little challenge back in either 2018 or 2019 to reread some of my favorite books that year, and it has just started a whole love affair with rereading. So I would say before that, yes, when I did that rereading challenge, I was so nervous that there were going to be books that didn't live up to my expectations. But I found that that was not the case. Every book I read, I still loved as much on that second reading, if not more. And I think I took something different from them from having read them at a different time in my life. And I definitely think there will be books where maybe it's not quite the same reading experience, but just in the same way you can rewatch movies over and over again, I think you can reread books. And I think that was something I hadn't really thought of or considered in that way. Just because I always felt like, oh my gosh, there's so many books out there I want to read and I'm never going to get to them all. But now I feel like there's a lot to be gained from rereading. Next question is, I would like to know more about your various reading groups. I know you and Rebecca started the Cozy Reader Book Club, but how did you find your Gilded Age book club? Are there any other book clubs that you're a member of? Any previous book clubs that you enjoyed but that have since disbanded? Okay, goodness. So yes, so Rebecca and I run the Cozy Reader Book Club. Anyone is welcome to join us. If you're interested in reading cozy books along with us, please send me an email and I can add you to our mailing list. And as for my Gilded Age Buddy Read group, so that group formed, I was actually added later. My friends Elizabeth and Susan and Melissa had been reading together, and then I posted on Instagram that I read Summer by Edith Wharton and how much I loved it and how much I wanted to read more things by her. And so my friend Melissa said, oh, I'm in this buddy read group. We read Gilded Age books and maybe you'd like to join us. And so she invited me and asked the other girls and they said yes. And so that was kind of how that group started. And now we've branched out. We've read a lot of things outside the Gilded Age as well. But they're just a lovely group of ladies to read with, and I get so much out of reading books with them because they're so insightful, all of them. So yes, that is lovely. So Instagram, it has been a really good way. I've definitely done a lot of buddy reading through Instagram, and then also now through BookTube, through some of all of you lovely people out there. We have buddy read different books. And are there any other book clubs that I'm a member of? No, not really right now. I mean, like I said, I do have some other buddy reads that I do, and I do quarterly read-alongs with my Patreon members in the Book Jennies tier. So we're reading a book together this month. We do that in January, April, July, and October. And then again, just, I have some other bookish friends that I enjoy reading with. And so occasionally one or the other of us will say, oh, I'm going to be reading this book. And the other one will say, oh, you want to read it together? I was going to read that too. So that's how oftentimes buddy reads happen. And then any previous book clubs that I enjoyed but have since disbanded. My mom and I started a book club when I was in my 20s, and that was fun, but that has long since disbanded. That was back in my hometown where I grew up, and but it was really fun while it lasted, and we read some great books. And then I was actually in a book club with my mom's group. There was a local mothers group that I joined when my son was an infant, and there was a book club. And so I joined that, and it was great. I was in it for years. We read a variety of things. Some were not good. But I actually ran that book club for like the last 3 years that I was in the club. And so I tried to make sure that we picked books that would hopefully make for good discussions. I think one of the books that stands out to me is The Handmaid's Tale. We read that and had a really great discussion of it. Okay, this is the final question or set of questions. I think you've mentioned that your husband is a reader as well. Are there any books you both have read and enjoyed? For example, one of you read something and loved it and recommended it to the other. How about your son? Are there any middle grade books that you have read that you recommended to him and he enjoyed, or vice versa? So definitely my husband and I have read some things. We have a very narrow window of crossover. My husband really enjoys science fiction and fantasy novels, and that's not really my go-to. But I will read some things that are on sort of the lighter end of sci-fi and fantasy. So like he read The Martian, and then I read The Martian, and I also read Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir. So that level of sci-fi is okay with me. They're very funny, and I like humor in my books, and so I enjoyed those. And the movie of The Martian is just as excellent as the book. And I'm excited for the Project Hail Mary movie that's coming out. Very curious to see how they're gonna film it. Let's see, I'm trying to think what else. We also have read, we've both read some of Michael Connelly's books. We like the Bosch television show. That's something we watched together. And so we both ended up reading the books, kind of passing them back and forth. And my dad used to read Michael Connelly, so he would give us the books that he'd read, and then we would read them. So we have read some of those. I'm trying to think what else. I mean, I've certainly gifted books to my husband to read, and he's enjoyed them, and he's gifted books to me to read, and I've enjoyed those. But those are the main ones I can think of that crossover. Oh, Ready Player One by Ernest Cline. My husband had read that, and I think he asked me if I wanted to see the movie, and I said, oh yeah, and I'd like to read the book. And so then he gave me the book to read, and so I very much enjoyed the book. It was really fun, very nostalgic. But yes, so I think those are some of the main ones. And then in terms of my son, I mean, I'm constantly giving him books, so many of the books he's read are things that I didn't say, here, read this. I just, gifted him books or checked books out from the library for him to read, and then he read them and enjoyed them. So most of his reading, other than what, teachers and people at school recommended, I have influenced his reading quite a bit. In terms of him influencing me to read, the one book that I can remember that he read last year, that he read it and then wanted me to read it, like asked me if I would read it so we could talk about it, and that was Insignificant Events in the Life of a Cactus by Dusty Bowling. And yes, I was just so amazed. It's such a good book. And yeah, it's about this young girl and she doesn't have any arms. She's born without arms. And so it's just about how she navigates through life. And yeah, so he read that and recommended it to me. And yes, so I loved it. I was so surprised. I wasn't 100% sure I was going to like it, but I ended up loving it. And we had a really good discussion about it, which was lovely. So that's all the questions about books and reading. And that will do it for the birthday Ask Me Anything video. Oh my goodness, you guys asked a lot of questions. I hope you enjoyed listening to all of my answers for these. Whew, if you made it here to the end, you get a round of applause. But I would love to chat with you in the comments about anything that I answered here, or are there any other questions I didn't answer that you would like me to? I'd be happy to chat with you about those in the comments. And if you're here but you don't have anything you want to add, but you'd like to let me know that you were here, because comments really do help my channel, leave a birthday celebration emoji in the comments. I would love to see those. I love to make my birthday last as long as possible throughout the month of October. And if you could also hit that like button if you enjoyed this video, and subscribe if you aren't already subscribed. I would love to have you join my bookish community. Thank you all so much for being here. Thank you for all of your lovely comments on my last video. Thank you just for taking time out of your day to spend it here with me in my cozy corner of BookTube. And I'll be back with another video very soon. Bye!